Right then, I really, in a way, I really don't want to do this particular video. But I feel like I've got to make my thoughts known about something. Just to give you some background, so this video will come out like a few days after what just happened sort of thing. But I do feel like I want to talk about it. I feel like I have to lend my voice to something, and I feel like I have to express some sort of emotion about it. So yesterday, the whole world found out that Joey Jordison, you know, drummer of Slipknot, he played in Wednesday 13 as well, Vivek and a few other bands, he was a very prolific musician, passed away. And for me, I always loved Joey. I always loved Slipknot. That Slipknot album, that first one, that debut, that major label debut, was a huge, huge deal for me. Like so many people out there. I'm pretty sure, we all got introduced to the blistering guitar work of Jim and Mick. The bass playing of Paul and Corey's vocals and that performance, and Sean, Chris, and DJ Starscream, everybody on that album, it was raw, it was chaotic, it was angry, and yet it was precise, emotive, everything. So it just seems like that album is, it was an influential album. But I really wanted to say, I don't really want to talk about Joey and his influence and musically what he sort of introduced everybody to in terms of what you could do on the drums and all that kind of stuff. At a young age, when you hear that album, it was something. Definitely, it was. It opened doors. It introduced me to extreme music. Who would have thought that extreme music could end up on MTV? Especially that sort of extreme music. No one heard anything like it before. But anyways, the thing that I wanted to lend my voice to is how death of someone, I've never met Joey before. I've only heard him speak through media, through YouTube, MTV, satellite TV, any video that I could find at the time on the internet where if he spoke, he would speak, sort of thing. I don't really know the guy. I've read interviews by him. I've never met him. I've never known him as a person. The same with Chris Cornell. I've never met Chris Cornell in my life. I've never met, countless other musicians that passed away. But that doesn't stop me being affected by their death. And it doesn't stop me, in a way, mourning their death. For those of you that are out there, and just to give you a background, this was sort of like a Facebook comment sort of thing, where I posted, I think that Joe Jobs is one of the greatest drummers in the world, and somebody replied with a very derogatory comment. Those developing years when you're a teenager, when you're in your 20s or you're a teenager, and you hear something so influential, like so out of this world, and it inspires you. It opens up doors for you. It makes you realize what you could accomplish terms of sound, music, tone, aggression, emotion, it hits the spot in a way. And I've, like that Slipknot album when it came out, it's the same way I felt when I heard Pearl Jam 10 for the first time. Queen, It's a Kind of Magic. Candlebox, Anathema. I felt the same way when I heard A Perfect Circle for the first time. First time I ever heard Crystal Planet by Joe Satriani. First time I heard Steve Vai for The Love of God. First time I heard Green Day, for example, or The Offspring, whatever, like Oasis. Like, it doesn't matter. These people, they put their life and they sacrifice so much to get music out there. If an influential musician or a musician that I or anybody else out there finds influential, they pass away, I think the message should be is that you let that person mourn. You let that person go through that feeling. Like, I don't remember Kurt Cobain, dying. Nirvana weren't even on my radar at that point. I didn't care. Years later, when I found out what happened to Nirvana and how Kurt Cobain died, and how his death affected me, that was years later, many years later. It was right after I heard Unplugged. It was something like 1999. I heard MTV Unplugged for the first time. That was my first introduction to Nirvana. Nothing else before it. Nothing else. I've just dismissed them. For some reason, I don't know why. As a teenager, I just did. I don't know how Teen Spirit flew under my radar the way it did, but it did. Even then, years later, it affected me. And I think the message should be, like, it doesn't matter what you think of that musician. It doesn't matter what you think of that actor. Like David Bowie, for example, when he passed away, I was affected by his death. Not as much as Chris Cornell, because Chris Cornell for me was more influential than David Bowie, and that's the way it is. And that's, you need to accept that what your opinions are on who's influential and what they did and their accomplishment does not, at that time, does not matter. Or at any point, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you know that somebody is mourning the death of a musician, an actor, a writer, a poet, a politician, a leader, anything, okay? Somebody that they've never met before, somebody they, for whatever reason, they just feel tied to. And that person has gone away. Just let somebody mourn. Just let somebody, like, express those emotions. Just let somebody feel that, a friend of mine, me and a friend of mine were talking about Alexei dying, Alexei Leho. Not my kind of thing. I never really appreciated Alexei Leho till this day. I don't think, it's not my cup of tea. I mean, he's a great guitar player, great songwriter, he's toured the world and all that kind of stuff. But for me, it's just, I've never felt that connection with their music. It's a personal thing. I'm not dismissing them, by the way, but I never felt that connection. I didn't dismiss somebody because they were saying, like, they feel down or they feel sad or they feel upset because Alexei died. That wouldn't make sense. That just wouldn't be a human approach, or a humanist approach. At the end of the day, somebody feels something because somebody passed away, and regardless of what that emotion is, you have got to let them express it. Okay, especially if it's emotions around, sadness. If it's appropriate emotions, sadness, grief, loss, and all those kinds of things. It doesn't matter what you think of any musician, name musician passing away in the past few years, you put the name there and just, you know, it doesn't matter what you personally think of that musician. If somebody felt something and they want to express grief, sadness or loss about it, it's a human approach. It's very human just to let somebody express that emotion, talk them through it, guide them through it. Because it doesn't matter if, you know, I'll give you an example, like Rush is not my thing at all. I just don't grab onto the music, which is, you know, natural. It's fair. You can't force me to like Rush. I'm not dismissing them as musicians. I'm not dismissing their accomplishments at all. But Rush weren't my thing. Okay, the same way somebody listening to this is going, you know, Perfect Circle's not their thing, or Joe Satriani's not their thing. You know, that's my thing. That's my jam. I love that music. You know, like a few years ago, I got introduced to Rotting Christ, for example. You know, I felt when I heard some of Rotting Christ's music, I felt exactly the same way I felt about listening to A Perfect Circle for the first time, listening to Pearl Jam for the first time. You know, it drove me to something. It inspired me. It influenced me. It gets me out of a place that I don't want to be in. And that's what we need to remember. Doesn't matter what you think about Joey Jordison. It doesn't matter what you think about Slipknot. It doesn't matter what you think about Chris Cornell or Freddie Mercury or David Bowie or anybody, okay? Name it, okay? Any musician that's passed away in, you know, at any point since music became this mainstream thing, since rock and roll, pop, charts, money, record labels, albums, you know, all of that kind of stuff. That kind of music attracts us, influences us, and it makes us go somewhere. It moves us forward. It moves something deep inside of you that you want to feel. So if you want to mourn the loss of somebody that's created that music, go ahead. And if you hear or know somebody that's mourning, somebody that's just passed away, guide them through it. Because, you know, Slipknot might not influence like the greatest, maybe, you know, I mean, Slipknot has changed like the music industry and how it works. Like that album, it's just changed extreme music, changed metal, changed rock, changed what you could do with music and rock as well. You know, like the idea of extreme music completely changed with Slipknot, in my opinion, okay? From introducing it to the masses to the way it's written and produced and put out there by record labels. Who would have thought 9 people dressed up in jumpsuits, vomiting on stage and just shouting gibberish and saying that people equals shit and calling their fans maggot? Who would have thought that that would ever become something? No one did. You know, listening to that album, that when I first got it, I never thought that Slipknot would be absolutely amazing. I just loved the album. That's all I cared about. So if you know, it doesn't matter what a person's accomplishments are in music. These people are influential for a reason. If you put that album on while you're driving to work to get you in the mood to sit at a desk from 9 to 5, dealing with other people's stuff, with other people's problems, go ahead, you know. And I'm telling you now that that musician is grateful, that musician appreciates the fact that their music is driving, in a way, is driving you to get out of your mood and be somewhere better. You know, even if you listen to any album, any piece of music, you know, to get out of a bad mood, to get into a good mood. Music is emotive. Music is emotions. And you cannot underestimate any of those people, ever. and what they feel. And I'm talking about the people that feel that death, feel that passing. Because at the end of the day, we're expressing loss, we're expressing grief, and in a way we're mourning. I will forever associate Slipknot with one of the greatest gigs I've ever seen in my life. And no one will take that away from me, ever. But 2 people from that band have passed away, 2 people that were playing that particular gig. And it was in Birmingham, I think it was about 2008, it was Birmingham, and Slipknot were headlining, and it was Slipknot, Machine Head, all of these bands all in one space playing metal, and it moved something in me. It just created, you know, one of the best nights of my life. And somebody in that band, you know, Slipknot, Joey Jordison, is gone. Paul's gone. I know it was a few years ago now, but he's gone. So yeah, you know, just understand that. It doesn't matter. And if you're mourning a band, or if you're mourning a musician, a politician, a writer, a poet, a blogger, a YouTuber, an influencer on Instagram, they pass away and they've moved something in you, and you feel lost because they are now not part of this planet. They're not part of life anymore. You go ahead and mourn. Feel that loss. And remember the best actions of that person, and just let it influence you. I think that's all I wanted to say about that. Yeah, okay. Bit of a serious one, but hey ho.